Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. This is Steve. Right now I'm standing in what seems to be your average strip mall parking lot. But what most shoppers don't realize is that here, hidden in plain sight, is the reminder of an almost forgotten battle. One that would go down as one of, if not the bloodiest, in California history. Before we get to this parking lot, we're going to head about 30 miles south to where this story begins. Well, I guess the story really begins in 1769 with the arrival of the Spanish missions, but that's outside the scope of this video, so we're going to start in December 1846. Thousands of people drive down this road every day, but I imagine very few of them know about the history that's right off to their side. All three of the sites we're going to be visiting in this video are kind of places with history hidden in plain sight. Places where people pass by, or in one case over, not realizing what's there. To give a little background, the Mexican-American War started in April 1846. In late 1846, General Stephen Watts Kearny and his Army of the West was tasked with the seizure of New Mexico and California. On December 2, 1846, Kearny and some of his Army of the West, after completing the longest march in U.S. Army history, reached Warner's Ranch, about 26 miles northeast of here. On December 6, 1846, what was left of Kearny's forces met a force of Californios a few miles north of here at the Battle of San Pasqual. Californios were Mexican elites who owned property in California and the descendants of some of the original Spanish colonizers. That battle lasted a couple of days, and both sides ended up claiming victory, but the reason we're here is what came after. This small, nondescript hill is known as Mule Hill. As Kearny, who was wounded in the battle, marched his men back to San Diego, they ran into California Lancers here, and the Americans were forced to take up defensive positions on this hill. The hill got the name Mule Hill, as the Americans, running out of food while defending the hill, were forced to eat their mules. So with the Americans stuck here and only limited supplies, they needed to get word to San Diego so that reinforcements could be sent. 3 men were able to sneak out: Edward Beale, who would later chart the Beale Wagon Road and take part in the Army's camel experiment, the famed scout Kit Carson, and a Native American from the Temecula village named Jose Tortuga. The 3 men split up so they'd have a better chance of reaching San Diego. Tortuga made it to San Diego first. It's amazing when you look at the rocks here. These are probably the same rocks those American soldiers used to set up defensive positions as they waited for reinforcements to arrive. The exact location of Mule Hill was forgotten for a while, but people started finding relics here, and that's how they were able to determine that this was Mule Hill. As you can see from this sign that has seen better days, right next to Mule Hill is where the town of Bernardo used to be, though it was established a few decades after the battle here. Nothing is left of the town now. It disappeared once Lake Hodges was created and submerged a portion of the town. Thankfully, there are a few informational signs about the battle here, so this place isn't completely forgotten. 18 Americans were killed at the Battle of San Pasqual, and it's often called the bloodiest battle to take place in California during the war. And it even says so on this sign. But as we'll see, it wasn't even close. After Jose Tortuga reached San Diego, over 200 sailors and Marines were dispatched, and their arrival caused the Californios to flee and set in motion 2 massacres. But before we get to that, we're going to head back to the north a bit. Now we've moved up near Temecula to a place called Vail Lake. We can't quite see the lake yet. I think we have to walk about a mile or so to get there. But in 1846, the time we're talking about, the lake wasn't here yet. It's a man-made reservoir. During the Mexican-American War, some native tribes sided with Mexico and some with the United States. The Liceño who lived in this area figured they were treated pretty badly under Spanish and Mexican rule, so they might as well try their luck with the Americans. Ultimately, that really didn't work out, as things would be just as bad, but during the war, they were important allies to the Americans. After the Battle of San Pasqual and Mule Hill, the Californios dispersed back to their homes and ranchos. One group of 11 Californios, on their way back, killed several natives and stole a herd of Liceño horses. The Liceño captured these 11 men and brought them to Warner's ranch, where, after a meeting of tribal elders, they executed them all. The killing of these 11 Californios became known as the Palomar Massacre, even though it happened at Warner's ranch and not Palma. Afterwards, the Mexicans wanted revenge, and they were also extremely worried about the natives siding with the Americans and wanted to subdue them. And fittingly, we're getting our first views of the lake now, as we're just about to talk about the history that's under this lake. When word of the Battle of San Pasqual and the Palomar Massacre reached the Temecula village, the Liceño living there left to a place called Paba, which was a more secured and protected area for their safety. And they had good reason to seek safety, because when news of the Palomar Massacre reached the Mexican forces, General Jose Maria Flores ordered a man named Jose del Carmen Lugo to find those responsible and kill them. Lugo's family owned vast tracts of land throughout Southern California, and he was also allied with the Cahuilla tribe. Lugo knew that the Liceño greatly outnumbered his forces, so he devised a plan to lure them into the narrows of a canyon, where a joint force of Mexican and Cahuilla warriors would be waiting in ambush. A group of Californios feigned fatigue, causing Temecula warriors to pursue them into the canyon. After a few miles, right here under what is now Vail Lake, the Cahuilla waiting in ambush attacked. The Californios then mounted their horses and turned back to fight the Liceño from the front, while the men hiding among the rocks and brush closed in from behind. About 20 Temecula Indians surrendered, and they were taken prisoner. Lugo originally wished to keep them alive, but Juan Antonio, who was the Cahuilla chief, had all of the prisoners killed. When Lugo admonished him for it, Antonio explained that if they had caught him instead, they would have killed him, so he just did the same. The exact number killed here is unknown, but it's believed to be over 100 Liceño, far exceeding the 18 killed at the Battle of San Pasqual. This ambush is what came to be known as the Temecula Massacre. This area that's underwater right in front of where the dam is now is believed to be the place where the massacre actually occurred. The reason the exact number killed here is unknown is the surviving Temecula Indians weren't able to return here until about a month after the attack, when they had the protection of more American forces. In that time, animals scavenged the bodies, and flooding had washed some away. Here at Vail Lake, there is no historic marker, or really anything, that tells the story of what happened here. Eventually, the remains that were left were taken a few miles from here to be buried. And that will bring us back to the parking lot where we started. Right in the middle of this strip mall parking lot, there is this small, unmarked, gated off area completely surrounded by parking spaces. And when I say it's in the middle, they built this parking lot completely around it. This is where the Temecula Indians buried their dead from the Temecula Massacre, and it's considered sacred ground to them. This area is completely gated off, and there are no signs or markers anywhere notating what this is. The land here was deeded to the Pechanga Band of Lasenia Indians by the city of Temecula, and they do still conduct ceremonies here. And here's the only gate into the property. And as you can see, nothing but parking spaces around here. This parking lot and strip mall were built in 2005, and that's when the cemetery was enclosed by this fence. There were gravestones here in the past, but people attempted to steal them, so they were removed. One is currently located on the Pechanga Reservation. A place like this goes to show you that you never know what history is hidden nearby. The Temecula Massacre has been almost forgotten by history, and this unmarked lot in the middle of a shopping center is the last reminder of it. So that's our look at the Temecula Massacre. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.